All right, there we go. I'm also going to introduce our commentators for this race before we get started, and that's going to be me. You all get to deal with me for a little bit more. And we've got our silent technical master here who will stop being so silent, Corndan.
Hello.
All right, everything looks good here. I guess we're going to just need to give our racers a countdown.
They will count it down themselves, is what it looks like. We just need to let them know. And I could just, get closer to the mic, or I don't have to be any louder. Yeah, I was just far from the microphone.
All right, I've just given the runners a signal to go ahead, and they're just going to start whenever they're ready. They're off in a soundproof booth where they get to yell at each other, and y'all don't have to put up with it.
Well, this is
it's for the best.
It is for the best. Welcome, Faizu.
Hello, thank you.
So the main gimmick of Back to the Future, you look at it, you may say, how do you speedrun an auto-scroller? At which point I would say you are a fool and you can speedrun any auto-scroller, but in this particular case, it's all about picking up the skateboard, which occurs exactly 60 seconds into the first level. 30 seconds in, you pick up a bowling ball, and 30 seconds after that, if you still have the bowling ball, you get the skateboard. If you don't have that, your speedrun is dead. So we get to watch and see if both of our racers pick it up.
Something like that, yeah.
And it looks like all four of them do have it. Yes, and there is music.
It's very good music, too.
It is, actually. I mean, relatively speaking.
So from this point on, the race is going to come down to a couple of things. One is who can keep their skateboard the longest, or who can pick it up the fastest, and the other is mini games. There are a couple of mini games here that are either RNG based or skill based that require a certain certain score to progress. Those will be the main determining factors, as well, of course, is the final level, which we will get to a bit later. But for now, we're just kind of auto-scrolling, and whoever decides to take a hit is going to end up in last. So far, everyone's pretty much neck and neck.
This is going to change for certain. I remember what happened when they tried doing this last year and all the previous times that they've tried racing this. Someone will inevitably take a hit and things will get interesting.
Yes. And the final section, that's
when I played this, I had trouble with the entire game because I had to play it for Cuso Grande.
Well, that's fair.
So Kowal took a hit. Kowal is now on foot, and in about 30 seconds will get a chance to recover his skateboard. He's gonna want that really bad.
Yeah, the escaping it's such a killer because it takes you 60 seconds to get everything you need. Such that basically doing that means that you're gonna be a minute behind, pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah. If you lose your skateboard when you're trying to go for a PB, it's pretty much run over. You reset there. Especially with the world record that NPC and later on Nest Cardinality pushed down, which is it's basically a perfect run with maybe a hiccup or two in it.
Yeah, Nest Cardinality put up an amazing run with 17 minutes and 3 seconds, the current world record holder. It's probably as close to perfect as you're going to get.
Part of the difficulty with this is that, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it's not the auto-scroll levels themselves aren't exactly set. It's not something you can just memorize.
Yeah, there's some sort of memorization. You can kind of tell how things are going to go, but it's not exact. The enemy placement, I believe the placement themselves is set, but what enemies you're going to get or not.
Right, and to progress from here, you have to get a score of 50. And if a bully reaches the counter before you reach 50, they just throw you out, and you have to do the previous level over again and try again. It's real fair.
The one thing that this game doesn't actually tell you is that you can keep going. You can throw root beer or whatever it is at 99 bullies, but 50 is all you need for success. So what they're trying to do is to get exactly 50 and then get caught by a bully as quickly as possible after that to end the stage.
Right, and that's one of the pieces of speed tech here, wherein everything up until now has been auto-scroller, but if you get your 50 quickly, and you have a bully 2/3 of the way across the screen when you get 50, you make up the first amount of actual possible time save in the run 5 minutes in.
Yeah, you can see the NPC finished with 51 there, I think. So a little bit of time could have been saved there, but that was still pretty much neck and neck with Brossentia and with Janglestorm.
Pretty much. I mean, being one off isn't so bad. So, like, just one off isn't so bad, but being like 10 or 15 is a big time loss.
One of the other things that you're going to be seeing the players doing in this is the bees or flies. They head straight towards them, and they're trying to position themselves on screen so that the bees will go off screen. Because once they go off screen, they actually despawn. Otherwise, if they stay on screen, they will just keep coming for you over and over. It's still bizarre to me how much speed tech.
I don't know that it's so much speed tech itself as just how much knowledge of the game you have to do well.
Oh, Brosentia's taken a hit. He's on foot again.
You hate to see it.
I don't. I love to see it. It means it makes everything so much more interesting. The thing is, one other. Maybe I should talk about the ending to this a little bit later on. But this, if you haven't seen this before, this can go horribly, horribly wrong at the very end of the game, and places can and probably will be determined based on the final stage.
Absolutely, and we won't really get into that. I want it to be a bit of a surprise, but there's so much RNG in the very final level that if they're going in this close together, it's literally going to decide everything.
Yeah. One of the other things in this which I find bizarrely entertaining is that Marty's hitbox is actually just his feet, from what I know. Everything will just pass through his upper torso, presumably because most of the obstacles that you are kind of going to bump into are on the ground. You know, you've got things like oil slicks and manholes and stuff like that. But for flying enemies and stuff like that, nope, the hitbox is still just his feet. His body and head can pass through basically everything without problem.
So I know all four of these players have determined there is a set of names for each one of these enemies that we've declared are basically canon. The only one I can remember is these hula hooping, the hula hooping like teenage girls. I believe her name's Sheila.
Yes, they are called Sheila as far as the Cuso Grande community is concerned. I I can't remember the rest of the names offhand, but I do know that we decided that the projectile that gets thrown at you is sweat. People sweat at you in this game. We're seeing everybody on the second minigame at the moment. In this instance, they are trying to block Lorraine's hearts. If you've seen the movie, you can probably guess why that is.
Now, the difference here in this minigame versus the first minigame, every guy you hit was 1 point. Here, it's every 2 hearts. So you actually have to get 100 hearts to beat this minigame. It's still 50 points.
Yeah, still 50 points. There we go. We've got people getting through this fairly quickly, doing it well.
This is another one that game's a little bit more RNG dependent than the diner is. Basically, if I recall correctly, that you want to keep, like, you have no control over it, but you want Lorraine to stay on the bottom half of the screen, basically, and move back and forth, and that will get you marginally more hearts. She tends to do more hearts every time she turns around.
Is that because of the isometric perspective? There's a slightly lower distance.
It could be. I don't know for sure.
Well, either way, everybody is through it. I've got to say, that minigame, I know that our runners in particular tend to hate that minigame a fair bit, but I find that one so much easier than the diner itself.
I agree with you. I actually had a much easier time with it.
I actually had a worse time with that one, just because it's really hard to tell with the perspective and everything exactly where you're standing and what you're going to block. But it might just be a matter of what you're good at and taste. Which yeah, we all have bad taste here.
It's quite possibly a personal thing, but I know that these runners in particular have previously complained about that stage, while they claim that the diner is easy, whereas I still fail the diner pretty regularly.
I think we can all agree the next mini-game is the best one, though.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The next mini-game is both the best and probably the easiest as well.
So let's talk about the next minigame a little bit, because I think a good lead into that is the music that we're listening to. The one song that's in this game, well, I guess one of 2, right? Because the next minigame has its own song. This is, for people who don't already know, this is The Power of Love sped up by about 3 times.
You can prove this to yourself if you need to. You can go to YouTube and find a version of this track or a playthrough of this game, and if you slow it down, you will be able to hear The Power of Love. I think it was fairly apocryphal. I don't know whether this is true or not. I know that it's sped up 3 times, but I remember hearing that the reason behind it was that they didn't think that it sounded video gamey enough, and so they were told to replace it with something else, and they just sped it up.
I have heard that, but not that they needed to replace it with anything else, but that they just sped it up to make it sound more like video game music.
So in the meantime, NPC took a hit, which means that everyone is basically out of a perfect run or contention therein. Kowalla's the only one on a skateboard. We'll see what he can do with that.
If he can stay on the skateboard, then that could give him enough of an opportunity to actually catch up.
Brossentia seems to be in a death spiral. He's just getting bodied repeatedly. It's not looking too good right now.
This is a really rough game, especially these auto-scroller sections just get so much more difficult as the game goes on.
Yeah, and the big difficulty are these bees. Right, the bees are probably the worst enemy in the game. They kind of loop around. There's some strategies you can do to basically push them off screen. If they stay off screen, they won't come back. Otherwise, they're going to loop around, and you're pretty much going to guarantee you're going to hit a bee when you're trying to move around. It's just...
So NPC is in the next mini game, which is basically DDR. Really slow and clumsy.
It's you basically just have to hit the notes with your guitar, and if you know any musical notation, this minigame becomes an awful lot easier because you can see flats and sharps. And sharps mean that they're going to hit high, flats mean they're going to hit low.
And hopefully, so Brossentia is doing the audio for us here, so we'll hear it soon. And I want you guys to guess what music this is in this minigame. I'm sure most of you will already know.
I can confirm that it is not The Power of Love sped up 3 times.
It is not The Power of Love sped up 3 times.
Is it The Power of Love sped up 4 times?
Maybe.
So that puts NPC in the final stretch here. There's a couple of levels left, and then the finale, which the finale is its own level of amazing. We're going to get there real soon.
Oh yeah, well, we'll talk about the finale shortly.
Yeah, meanwhile, Kowallazy and Janglestorm are neck and neck, finishing up the music level.
Yeah, and so once you finish the enchantment dance, I'll wait so you can hear the great music.
I hope everyone in the audience is dancing.
As you should. So, once you get past the enchantment under the sea dance, you don't need to collect clocks anymore. All you need to do at that point in time, you've saved your parents getting back together, so your future is safe. You just now have to get, home.
Did we talk about the 2 timers?
Yeah, we can. So there are 2 timers. There's a time for the stage, right? You guys see time, and then there are clocks. So that middle picture is also a timer, and the 2 aren't related.
Yeah, there are. This is one of the only games I can think of in the world where you can time out in 2 separate ways. But the clocks restore the picture in the middle, while the timer in the bottom right is just kind of your stage timer that you have to finish the screen.
Yeah, if you notice, it moves about 4 times faster than it should, right? I mean, like, it's like 4 times per second.
Jangle has just been in a bit of a death spiral himself. He's without bowling ball and skateboard now.
It's so easy for that to happen, because if you take a hit, you get knocked off your skateboard, you lose your bowling ball, and it's just, you suddenly are moving slower and don't have a way to deal with enemies, and you may not be practiced at handling that.
Yep. All 4 of these are pretty practiced at handling this, however.
Yeah, it's just that PB attempts and a race are very different in this game.
Absolutely.
So we're coming up pretty close to the final leg of the game, which is the famous DeLorean race down the street to reach 88 miles an hour. And you can get all the way into the game and fail this segment, and you instantly game over.
Yes. They need to finish the final segment at 88 miles per hour, or the run does not count as complete. So we can potentially see people who are in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd all fail to hit 88 miles per hour and automatically get 4th place.
Yep. And we have seen runs of this die at 87 miles an hour.
Yes. It's if you fail a run at 87 miles per hour, you get 5th place. But it's just so utterly random, and you will see why when we get there very, very shortly. We're seeing right now on most of the screens the bee despawning strategy that I mentioned a little bit earlier.
Oh, NPC is on the DeLorean race. So the trick of it is you have to hit 88 miles an hour when you cross the finish line, and this lightning is leaving holes in the ground that significantly reduce your speed.
So yeah, it's almost pure RNG as to whether or not you manage it. Or at least it feels that way to me.
NPC got it.
And NPC has managed it. 88 miles per hour successfully.
And we're gonna let the timer keep running for everyone else, but it was like in the time of 18:32, which is a good race time, but not a good like personal best. I mean, NPC I believe is second on the leaderboard at 17:10.
Yeah, that is correct. NPC is second, but yeah, it looks like on NPC's screen it's 18:26. It's solid. I mean, it took me an hour to beat the game, but that was blind.
So in terms of what you can expect in terms of PBs, world records, and like, for 9 years the world record of this was held by Crocdoc, and it was 17 minutes 11 seconds. NPC beat that by 1 second and had 17:10 for a few weeks, and then Nez Cardinality managed to get pretty much a near perfect run and got 17:03 and is the current world record holder. I know we kind of went over that a little bit before, but I figure that now that we're seeing the finish times, it's worth going over it again.
Brossentia just finished with what looks like a 19:40.
Also at 88 miles an hour.
Indeed.
So
knowing they're all in chat together, I'm wondering how much pressure that's putting on Koal and Janglestorm to.
I don't know.
So
Are we going to see 88 miles per hour? I hope not.
I'm really hoping so.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, I was there when Nez Cardinality got the world record, and he let out this bellowing scream of "I'm free" and has not played the game since.
Well, I can't even say that's unreasonable. That is totally a reasonable response to getting world record in this game.
This is a really weird game in that it's kind of fun to play once you understand the mechanics behind it and the little tricks to make things less horrendous. But PB attempts and world record attempts are just so RNG dependent and horrific.
Oh yeah, no, it's fun to play. Don't try to world record this because you're gonna get stopped by everything that's not your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Like, by all means, if there are a bunch of games in this marathon that are totally worth checking out and trying for yourself, and I'd say this is one of them, you know. Give it a shot, try it out. You will probably have fun for a few minutes at least.
Alright, it's Janglestorm's turn. Can he do it?
Everyone holds their breath.
You can just get blocked by lightning at the last stretch and lose. It's so easy.
You can. There is
that. 78 miles an hour.
So that means that right now Janglestorm is in 4th place.
You hate to see it, unless you're Faizu, I guess.
Look, I didn't want this to wind up being everyone succeeding.
Look, I didn't want him to not get Back to the Future. He has to do runs later. Like, he's stuck in 1955 now. What are we gonna do?
To be honest, I would have been happiest if all 4 people had failed to get 88 miles per hour and one person had got 87. That would have been my personal preference for.
It's Koal's turn, and he gets 88.
Koal manages it, which means that we have our placements. NPC in 1st, Brossentia in 2nd, kowallazy in 3rd, and Janglestorm unfortunately stuck in the past, and that means that he's going to be a distant 4th by about 50 years.
Real solid race though. Yeah, NPC taking the win with the 88 miles an hour. We got 3 of the 4 racers able to escape the past, and Janglestorm will be practicing for their runs for about 60 years.
And yes, to answer the question in chat, if you fail on the last stage, the DeLorean, then there are no do-overs. That's it. Game over.
Yeah, that is. I guess it's a bad end, but for the purpose of the speedrun, it doesn't count as an ending.
Well, I mean, we'll do whatever. For the race, it doesn't count, right? But for the For the speed run, I guess it does, but you're still better off going 88 miles an hour, so you're still not going to take world record without making it back to the future.
I don't know. I want to say you had to get the 88 mile an hour ending, but I don't recall now. All right, that is the race. I think we're about ready to wrap up on this. Do either of you have any closing comments?
Oh, this was excellent.
Nah, I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I'm really, really glad that we managed to get back to the future.
Yeah, that was a solid run back. Like I had said, we had technical problems with this last year. We decided to do it again, and I'm glad we did. Real solid race. Congrats to all 4 racers.
GG's to all 4.
Indeed.